And we are back at the Ochsner Sports Performance Center. I'm Todd Graffagnini. This is John DeShazier. Day one of Saints training camp as we get into it. And JD, first of all, I guess the star of the show on this first day was the weather. Can you ask for a better day on July 26th in the city of New Orleans?
Ref, I am so afraid to praise the weather because I know it's going to flip on us. It might flip before this day is out, but this was gorgeous. Humidity's down. The breeze is blowing. You couldn't have asked for a better day around here.
And the fans responded. Sellout crowd back behind us, the mist, the fans. They really didn't need it a whole lot today, but it was a great time had by all. You can't get better than day one of camp.
Yeah, it was, you get the juices flowing because you get the guys back out here, so that excitement is going, and then you have this kind of day. The players had to have loved it because they were able to get in a significant amount of work and not have to worry about hydration issues, and that's huge when we're talking about practice in New Orleans.
Well, day one also brought out the dignitaries. We saw head coach of the New Orleans Pelicans, Alvin Gentry, out here. We saw Zion Williamson out here. We saw Jackson Hayes. Former Saints Super Bowl champion Roman Harper was out here, and longtime Saints nemesis Steve Smith out here with the NFL Network. Old coach Jim Mora was here, so saw a lot of guys today.
Yeah, it's always good to get these guys out, especially the basketball team. We've seen Alvin Gentry in past years. I'm sure we'll see David Griffin before the camp is over. You get the players out here because these guys intermingle. They're right across the parking lot from one another, so they'll get an opportunity to see a lot of one another.
Now, as we get into camp itself, obviously the subject of Michael Thomas not being here, day one of his holdout, actually day two of his holdout, and we heard from Coach Sean Payton, Cam Jordan, Drew Brees. They addressed the Michael Thomas situation.
After the last CBA, when you look at generally it was a rookie back in the day, and it might take 4 days or 3 days, but after the slotted assignments, that quickly kind of went away, and so I don't think the topic of holdouts are as significant today as they were 10 years ago. I mean, I can recall being in camp with the Giants, waiting on Shockey, 4 days, 5 days. It was just a lot more prevalent then. So, I envision at some point they'll get that number worked out, and until then, we work on this here.
I mean, yeah, it's the business side of football. Everybody has to understand their own situation, and at the end of the day, you want to be valued by your team, not only your team, but you have a value within yourself. And you know what you can get and what you want, and that's for two sides to come together to agreement. I'm going to focus on being the best I can be. I'm going to wish Mike T the best that he can be, and I know he's out there working somewhere. Whatever field he's taken to, he's always taken with the same mentality. So I'm really not stressed about that situation. I'll leave that to the organization and Mike T.
Yeah, I mean, contract is part of this game, our contract negotiations, and so we'll let this play out, but confident that there'll be an agreement reached at some point, and when there does, then he'll be back and we'll be ready to roll.
Well, obviously, it's the first day of camp. The excitement level is very, very high. We heard from Sean Payton, Cam Jordan, Drew Brees. They talk about coming to camp the first time and the excitement level it brings.
So I thought these guys, today moved around. I think the weather, we've got a good stretch here where, it's been a little milder. I think the setup for the fans is outstanding. I was really excited to see how much that's come along, just creating the shade and it's come a long way. You used to sit out there and all I heard was the beer man selling beers. That was your only way to get cool. But no, everything was good here this first practice.
What's monotonous about chasing a championship? I mean, we've got the same mentality. We come out here and we try and be the best that we can. I think everybody on the field still has another level we can reach. To get to the highest plane, we have to go beyond what we've ever thought we could go.
Listen, this is where it all truly begins. You obviously work very hard during the off season on certain things, whether that be on your own, and then as that transitions into OTAs and mini camp. But here we are, training camp. This is where you really start stacking those bricks, so to speak, to build the foundation by which we're going to be able to do great things this year.
When we come back, we'll have more of Saints training camp on CST after this timeout. Welcome back to Saints Training Camp Report on CST. I'm Todd Graffagnini. Just a little while ago, John DeShazier caught up with former Saints nemesis Steve Smith, who's covering the Saints training camp for the NFL Network.
Okay, this is a guy that Saints fans might not be all that excited to see, Steve Smith. But Steve, you're here at training camp for the Saints. What are some of the things you look for when you go to a training camp practice?
What I really look for is just the continuity between players. I look at the quarterback, wide receivers, the plays, how they're doing, how they're pushing the ball, techniques of the wide receivers and corners, defense. Try to look at all 22 positions, offense, defense. I don't want to be considered a guy that just can evaluate quarterbacks or wide receivers, but try to look at everybody. And to be able to give analysis on other positions and just continuously being a student of the game.
Yeah. Now, only one training camp practice in, so it's going to be difficult to say what a team will be, but what do you think this team can be, the Saints?
Here's my two things really just, when I analyze them, is how's the defense going to be on third down? Last year, watching a team, 3rd and inches, stop, right? 3rd and 35, first down, right? So can you be consistent and have those 3rd down stops, especially at times where you guys have done such a great job of neutralizing the offense on 1st and 2nd. And then the other thing is Alvin Kamara, how he handles carrying the workload. He was a guy who, I asked him earlier, you trained last year, you played 30 or 40 plays. You played in 11 or 21 personnel in the passing down, and Mark Ingram was in base. Now all of a sudden, have you trained this offseason to be the feature back, to carry the workload, and just be on your feet, be in the game? You can do it, but you don't know if it was successful until you actually get out there and do it. So I'm interested to see that, but I think if anybody, he has the acumen and also the physical ability to do it as well.
You've been around this game for quite some time, and you've seen a lot of Drew Brees. What are your thoughts on the Saints Hall of Fame quarterback?
See, here's my thing about it. So my thing about Drew Brees. He's the last of the 2001 class, which is, and now it was just me and him, and then now it's him. And it's pretty cool just to watch him. He's doing a fantastic job. Over the years, even as an opponent, watching Drew Brees, whenever I watch Drew Brees film, I just marvel at the things that him and Marcus Colston did. I was just going back in my mind, Henderson, just all the different wide receivers over the last 10 years, what he has done with those guys, it's remarkable. And I really believe Drew Brees is probably one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the National Football League. A lot of people give a lot of credit to a lot of other guys and skip over Drew Brees, and I'm not sure why, because he's just steady Eddie, Mr. Consistent.
Yeah. Not to knock the guys that you played with, but what kind of numbers could Steve Smith have put up with Drew Brees?
I think if I go down that road, because Jake Delhomme is in Bow Bridge, so
he's played here.
He's about 2.5 hours away.
Not that far.
So if word gets out that I said it, so you know what? Sometimes, I'll say this way, and I'll kind of go into the Steve Smith persona is, man, I can catch passes from anybody, but it ain't too bad to catch a few dimes from Drew Brees. So I played in the Pro Bowl with him a few times and had the opportunity to see what he can do firsthand. Yeah. Man, it's like a melted chocolate. It's like a fresh chocolate chip cookie fresh out of the oven.
Steve's making me hungry.
Exactly.
And with that, we'll be back after this break.
Back here at the Oster Sports Performance Center, CST, Saints Training Camp Report. I'm Todd Graffagnini. This is John DeShazer. JD, first day of camp. Obviously, can't tell a whole lot because they're not in pads yet, but just your general impressions of the first day.
Well, a little bit of sloppiness in the center quarterback exchange. We expected to probably see some of that. If you don't have Max Unger, who was here the previous 4 seasons, obviously, he and Drew Brees had really gotten the cohesion together. But we saw a couple of balls on the ground, and few things will aggravate Sean Payton more than seeing the football on the ground. Great to see Cam Meredith out. We saw him on the side doing some individual work, just getting himself into shape. He's full go, so it'll be interesting to see how he progresses as camp goes along. Those were the things that really jumped out to me.
Just to kind of piggyback, I think the wide receiver battle is going to be something we're going to watch the entire camp because there are a lot of guys competing for spots that are wide open.
Yeah, Rashard Matthews is a guy who really looks like he's got the goods. Now, he's a veteran. He came late to the party. I think he came a couple of days in the mini camp, but he looks like he really can be an asset. But it's early in training camp, so we'll see how it goes as he continues to go. But right now, first day, he left a pretty good impression.
You know, running back Latavius Murray came from the Minnesota Vikings with a reputation that he was not really involved in the passing game, but we saw him slip out of the backfield a couple of times today, and I think if you're going to be in this offense, you better be ready to catch the ball.
You absolutely better be. You better be able to execute the screen pass, and you better be able to pick up blitzes. Those are things that we know are staples of the Saints offense with their running backs, and so that's one of the things that Murray, I believe, thinks he can do.
Quickly on the defensive side, I don't think Cam Jordan's lost a step. He was getting it done today against Ryan Ramczyk.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. Ninth season in the league. He doesn't slow down. Every rep to him is a game rep. It's impressive to see a guy with that kind of enthusiasm. It never seems to wane.
Well, looking forward to day 2, right back out here, bright and early tomorrow morning at the Oshner Sports Performance Center. JD, looking forward to talking about it with you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. A great second day, hopefully.
And we will see you tomorrow on New Orleans Saints Training Camp Report, CST.